Alright, so we're going to try to continue with the autobiographical episodes and where I left off at in Hawaii. Now, before I carry on with the discussions, I just want to say, well, it's a rainy day or I'd be outside, so we're inside. And two, I'm trying out some new things. I got these earbuds, so we'll see if that helps microphone quality. I don't know if that works, if any. And thirdly, just want to remind everybody that I began these autobiographical episodes for the benefit of my children. I have two of my daughters in the United States and stepchildren in the United States, and I have a son and stepchildren in Africa. And it's easier sometimes in this modern age to be able to dial into your loved ones or whatever. When you just need a little cheering up, or when you want a little information or whatever, you want to say something for posterity. Even after I'm long gone, YouTube ideally will still be around, and these autobiographical episodes will still be around. So my kids and everybody can get a glimpse of what I put up with growing up and how I came to be where I'm at today, in the position that I'm at today. And also for my other friends, well-wishers, whoever, that wants to also know, how I came about, what I profess, what I believe, how I act, whatever you want to know is pretty much within these autobiographical episodes. It's not that I just love to talk about myself, but it's almost like therapy, or I'd like to get all this out, and then after I can look back on it and be like, oh, I can see the different levels of how things progressed. So we can carry on now to a chapter in my life that was very miraculous and had a big impact, largely on me personally. And I was able to see the miracles of these things that happened right away, as I'm about to explain. So I'm in Hawaii, and I don't know how long I've been there. I've maybe been there couple months, 2 months, and I was getting along okay with people. I had a very long dreadlocked beard, and I had some dreads in my hair, and everybody there was kind of hippie, so it was working out cool to where I would be sitting on the beach, at some of these drum circles, and the person right next to me would just turn around and be like, oh, pass me a spliff, take some hits, pass it right along. I'd be on this beach and I was seeing whales and dolphins and getting my food from the trees. And Hawaii life was very hand to mouth. It was very living day to day, but it was also very difficult, especially when you're with a kid that's in first grade. So I was having a lot of difficulties because I couldn't keep up the lifestyle that I had come to know when we were in Venice Beach. So during this hardship, I come to find out that the guru from the temple at Rose Avenue was coming to Hawaii for a week-long festival. And it's one thing I knew about the Hare Krishna festival. Sometimes you can donate your time washing dishes and stuff, and then you can attend the whole festival. So I could attend lectures, I could have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and which was a big benefit for my daughter. So, I decided for her to skip school that week. We were going to go to this festival that was going to be held not far from Kahana Beach, as a matter of fact. So we went. And just like I knew, I was able to wash dishes, and I was able to help out, and then me and my daughter were able to rope in. But there was this little problem, because they set up a men's ashram tent and a women's ashram tent. They were like these huge tents that could hold, 100 people in them or more. Yeah, so we roped in, but I couldn't sleep in the women's ashram, obviously. And my daughter, I didn't feel comfortable taking her into the men's ashram. So we slept in this giant tent area that they had set aside for the guru's Vyasa-san and the altar with the deities on it that they brought. So it was really like a no-no to sleep inside of that room, because you're not supposed to sleep in the temple on the floor. And what had happened was the first night I slept in there. There was some strange guy. It was like some old hippie. He called himself Jesus, and he had like long white hair and a long white beard. He showed me his ID. His ID card was a Blockbuster video card that said Jesus on it. So that's why he said he was Jesus, and he had ID to prove it. But anyway, and there was a few other people. That was, some men, some women, and they were all, we slept in this temple room the first night. The next day, somebody came and was like, listen, we had a meeting and nobody's allowed to sleep in this room. You have to separate yourselves to either the men's ashram or the women's ashram. And I was like, oh my goodness, and I kind of had the issue with it because I explained to her, well, I can't go in the women's ashram and I don't want my daughter to go there by herself, and I can't go to the men's ashram. My daughter can't go to the men's ashram. She understood the problem right away. And so she said, I'll discuss this with the organizers of this whole thing. Then she said to everybody else, but you, the rest of the people, you go to the women's ashram and you go to the men's ashram. And this one guy, Jesus, was like, he took exception. And he was like, no, if they can sleep in the temple, I can sleep in the temple. I came all the way here from California, blah, 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 blah. I paid this money, I'm going to sleep in here. And the lady was real calm but firm and said, no, you can go to the men's ashram. No, I'm going to sleep in the temple. She said, you can sleep in the men's ashram or you can leave the festival. So I was like, oh, okay. So he's like, grudgingly goes over to the men's ashram. Me and my daughter, we were like outside the temple in this little spot where they stored wood. And so she came back and she says, hey, listen, I talked to everybody. It's okay if you and your daughter can sleep in the temple. Find a little corner away from, all the paraphernalia and stuff, and they're fine. So they're fine. But now, all of a sudden, this guy, he took exception to the fact that me and my daughter were allowed to stay there. And the whole rest of this festival, he made it his mission to make my life miserable. He was constantly going around talking trash to me, to all the other people there. He was saying, this guy smokes ganja. Look at him with his tattoos. Look, he's got dreadlocks in his beard. He's got dreadlocks. He's hanging out with his daughter. And, I let everything roll off my back. I kept having people come over to me and be like, hey, is there a problem? This guy keeps coming over to us, talking about you. So I was like surprised then. So I was like, all right, well, I'll see what I can do about that. Then he started talking about my daughter. And that's when things took, a little turn. Like, he brought out the Philadelphia in me, the East Coast, New Jersey angst that I've really been trying to avoid, which was a large part of, my spiritual practice was, trying to be calm and meditative, even keel. So this guy was really pushing it, man. And eventually, when he was trying to stop my daughter from playing with any of the other children that were there, I kind of lost my cool with him. And, and I told him, if I hear anybody talking about me or my daughter again, we're going to have problems. And I'm going to end up putting you in a lava tube and nobody's going to hear from you again. And that's kind of the thing, in Hawaii, there's a lot of underground lava tubes. You can get lost in them. So basically, I was kind of telling the guy, I'm going to beat your ass. And he was all, oh, what? And he tried to puff his chest out about it, but I'm like, look, man, I'm not threatening you. I'm just letting you know what's going to happen. If I hear anybody else talk about, if you're talking about me, we're going to have problems. The next night, this guy's walking around and he's carrying around a machete. And he's carrying around this machete because he's saying that I'm abusing him, I'm threatening him. And I'm like, oh my God, man, I can't believe it's coming to all this. I come up to him, I confront him one night, right after it was a beautiful kirtan, and I was just full of bliss. And then I walk out, and this man's there with the machete, and he's like, that's the man. And I was like, what? What are you doing, man? Like, what's up with you and this machete? What are you gonna do? Chop me? I'm like, I dare you to chop me right now. I'll take that machete off you so fast. Oh, you're crazy. I have this big knife. I'm like, I don't care. So the guy goes away, and I'm thinking this is the end of it. Like, I keep thinking this is the end of it. This guy is becoming a continued nuisance. Now, the next day, I hear that one of the sannyasis, the swamis, is coming from Los Angeles, and he's one of the guys that I knew and kind of developed a relationship with. So I was excited to see him coming to Hawaii, It was somebody I knew in LA, and now, finally I could talk to him and say, hey,
Daddy,
you're here in Hawaii. So the next day, while I'm waiting for this sannyasi, my daughter wants to go swimming in a beautiful swimming pool at this resort, when they were holding this festival retreat. And so I see the sannyasi shows up, and I go over and I was like, oh, Maharaj, it's so nice to see you. And I lay down on the ground, which is this position they call dandavat pranam, which is laying flat like a stick that just got dropped. And you say your pranams, your lows. And I'm like, hey, Maharaj. And as I looked up, there's the jerk-off guy right next to the sannyasi. And he's pointing down at me. That's him, Maharaj. That's the man that's been abusing me. And I was boiling red. Like I was ready to go for this guy's throat while he's right next to this sink. I was like, and then Maharaj looks and he knew that there's a problem. And I think he knew that this man is unstable, and what he did was he said to me, he said, hey, look, Aldo, don't worry about this guy. He's like, I hear he's off his meds. He's a little bit unstable, schizophrenic. And, just please, don't worry about him. I'm like, okay, Maharaj. But I can't even talk to you right now because I'm so choked up with anger. He's like, I understand. I'm like, okay, we'll talk later. And so I walk away, completely fuming mad. And I sit down on a beach chair and tears are streaming out of my eyes. And I'm thinking to myself, such deficiencies I have that I'm at this spiritual festival, surrounded by saints, Vaishnavas. And I can't even keep my cool. I can't even just let this guy go, And it was so stressing to me that I didn't know what to do. I was at such a crossroads. And I had not smoked any ganja the whole time I was at this festival. I wasn't doing any psychedelics. I wasn't doing mushrooms. I wasn't doing anything, other than eating the 3 meals a day, chanting and praying, kirtans, and going to lectures, and scrubbing dishes, man. It's one of the things I used to do that I was good at when I was started serving at the Philadelphia temple. And I would, and I got to finally get into the kitchen, and I would scrub the dishes, man, scrub the dishes. Something that I always used to do growing up. One of my first jobs was scrubbing the dishes. My uncle's was a manager at the restaurant for a country club, and so he was able to give me a job scrubbing the dishes. All my cousins, they all got jobs either being waiters or working on the golf course. Me, I'm in the kitchen scrubbing dishes. And then later on in life, I'm working at other restaurants, scrubbing dishes. As a teenager, my first jobs were scrubbing dishes. And then in Philadelphia, I worked scrubbing dishes at a vegetarian restaurant. Eventually that was the one time I actually got escalated to prep cook after, so many years, going from dishwashing to, chopping vegetables to, preparing foods, And so now here I am in Hawaii scrubbing dishes, and I got this. Angry right now, tears streaming down my cheeks. And I must have been quite a sight, but I'm tucked away in the corner behind some bushes. And I remember looking up in the sky and seeing in the sky like some great hallucination, Mahavishnu, right? I'll put up an image of Mahavishnu, but Mahavishnu has 4 arms. So in his 4 hands, he holds a mace, Sudarshan chakra, a conch shell that he blows, and a lotus flower. And I saw that in the sky, 4 hands, completely stopped me in my tracks. And I looked, and I remember seeing Vishnu in the sky, and I'm looking around to see if anybody else noticed. People were going about doing their day-to-day. My daughter was splashing in the pool, didn't notice anything was going on. And I was just stuck seeing God in the sky. And then, I would look around, and then when I would look back, it was still there, but it became like a cloud, and the cloud still had the features in the face, the crown, the garland, and, he was standing in a lotus, and, but it became more cloud-like in structure. The wind started blowing it apart little by little. There was still like 4 pillars coming out of the central pillar cloud for like 15 minutes later. I was absolutely blown away. And I knew I had to take initiation because the guru that was coming here was truly God's servant. I've never thought that this religious experience would happen because I've always been convinced that that's not what you're supposed to look for when, when you're trying to just find knowledge in life, you're looking for practicalities. You're not trying to find some strange mystical experience, because you can get always fooled by that. Somebody can fool you with some trickery. But this was like at my lowest. God came, revealed Himself, through His dearmost disciple, and I had surrender. At that point, surrender was like the hardest thing I could ever do. I knew this is where I had to surrender. And then at the night, they had the last big kirtan before the next day, the initiation. And they said, hey, for all the new initiates, be sure to show up here, at 3 o'clock in the morning with your head shaved, and you have to have your flowers, your fruit. And I was like, what? And you had to collect money. I was like, what? I didn't know I had to do all that. And then people would come up to me and they'd be like, oh, Aldo, I see you're going to be initiated tomorrow. And I was like, no, I don't know if I can do it, because I was just terrified of shaving my beard and my hair. And they were like, oh, And I remember all day people were coming up to me and I was making excuse after excuse. Hey, I see you're going to be initiated. No, I don't think I could do it. My daughter, she's been missing school all week, so tomorrow's Friday. I got to get her into school on Friday. And then people were like, well, okay. And then I'd be like, hey, Aldo, I think you're going to get initiated. No, I don't think I could do it. I didn't know, about this. I don't have the money. I don't have the, they're like, oh, okay. And I'm just making excuses, man. And that night, it was like midnight. And I'm running around going like, should I do it? Should I not? And I totally forgot about the miracle that I just witnessed. I literally I had a religious experience and I was worried about my hair. And it really kind of blew me away, man. And so I ended up, me and another devotee were both like in the bathrooms, like looking at our hair like, oh my God, I can't believe we're going to do this. And I just took the clippers and shaved my head, shaved my beard. He helped, he cleaned me up, and then I shaved his head, he shaved mine. And I still needed to have fruit and flowers, and you're supposed to beg some change, some money. And so I didn't know what to do, except I knew where I could find some flowers at night. I knew where there was a bush of night blooming jasmine. So I went off into the forest and I collected some flowers, some passion fruit flowers, or in Hawaii they call them lilikoi. So I got some lilikoi flowers. I got some jasmine, night blooming jasmine. I found a sprouted coconut, which was like a coconut with a tree coming out of it. And it was like, a plant this big. So, I made a nice arrangement of flowers. And then I found passion fruit and some other guavas and, all the free fruit that I could pick and find. But while I was looking for the lilikoi, I'm in the middle of this forest, armful of fruit and stuff. And I'm picking these passion fruit, but I'm wondering why, all the passion fruit was high up in the vines. There was nothing right where I can just grab it. And I look on the ground and I can see a bunch of crushed fruit. And all of a sudden I heard in the bushes, and the bushes started rustling. And I was like, oh my God, there's wild boar. I'm going to die. I'm going to get gorged to death in the woods at 2 o'clock in the morning. It blew my mind, man. And I just prayed. I chanted Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Please, Lord, don't let me die right before my initiation. So I went and I made it back alive. And the only thing I needed next was money. And the few people that were up early for the initiation, maybe whose kids were being initiated too and stuff like that, I went and I begged from them some loose coins and stuff. So I had a little bit of money to offer to my guru, along with the flowers and the fruit and whatever other offerings I was supposed to make, candle and things like that. Yeah, now I had a bona fide spiritual name given by a bona fide spiritual master. And he explained to me the importance of the 4 regular principles, the importance of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and he gave me my spiritual name, which is Nanda Krishna Das. And that's, pretty much when I, spiritually stopped going by Aldo Di Stefano or Ras Aldo Tafari, and I would go by Nanda Krishna Das. The importance, which comes back to me later, of this initiation and having taken guru. It was deep. It was deep, man. I went back. My daughter woke up. She completely freaked out, saw me with no hair, no beard. And she was just like, who are you? You're not my dad. I'm like, I am your dad. Look at my tattoos. They're the same. And we stayed in Hawaii for another month, and then went back to Los Angeles. And I'm just kind of glossing over a lot right now, and I'm doing that just to kind of like, this was a big thing, and I just want to catch us up. I want these autobiographical episodes to be able to catch up to where I'm at now, and to do that, we got a lot of ground to cover. So this episode was just basically about Hawaii, the end of Hawaii, how I found my spiritual master, and then after this, I went back to Los Angeles, to Venice Beach after Hawaii. See, but there was a lot more that happened in Hawaii, man. I was so stuck and broke in Hawaii. I ended up selling a lot of my tattoo equipment to get back to Venice Beach. I kept my machines, but I sold everything else, like my power supplies, some spare machines that I had, all my ink and tubes and stuff. But I didn't make it back to Venice Beach, and I started tattooing again. Worked myself back up. All right, so next time, more Venice Beach, California, and that wraps up Hawaii, and we continue on with the adventure. Thank you guys so much, man. And I just want to say, man, none of this could be possible without my mercy of my Gurudeva. All of this has to do with those blessings. And I know I make a lot of mistakes and offenses, but please know that I don't intentionally make these mistakes and offenses. And please, if you forgive any mistakes and offenses that I make while discussing any of the pastimes between me and my Gurudeva or anybody in the Hare Krishna movement, please, we'll talk about it in the comments, but please give me a blessing and your forgiveness. All right, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.